Candleston, asshole of the world.
Samson is shaping up to be one of those games that quietly builds momentum the more you actually learn about it. On the surface, the Mad Max inspiration is obvious. Heavy vehicles, brutal close quarters fights, a hostile city that doesn't care if you survive. Thanks to a bunch of new details and some gameplay clips, we now have a clear picture of what this game is all about. And man, if you're a fan of Mad Max and GTA 4, then we're in for something special. The deeper details paint a much more deliberate, grounded experience than people might expect. This is a single-player mission-based game built by a small independent team in Sweden, led by Christopher Sundberg, the founder of Avalanche Studios, and the creative lead behind the early Just Cause games. That background matters, not because Samson is trying to recreate that chaos, but because you can see the same design mindset at work, systems interacting with each other, physicality over spectacle, and a world that reacts rather than just hosts objectives. The game is targeting an early 2026 release, launching first on PC with consoles following later. At $24.99, the team is clearly positioning Samson as a focused, confident experience rather than a bloated one. There are no microtransactions, no multiplayer hooks, no live service elements. You buy the game, you get the game. That alone already puts it in a very different category compared to most open world releases today. Samson's world sits somewhere between a full open sandbox and a tightly linear narrative. You're free to move through the city, explore districts, take on jobs, and learn how everything fits together. The developers are very clear that density, pacing, and purpose matter more than sheer size. This isn't an endless checklist. It's a city built to support a specific story and a specific tone. That tone is mature, grounded, and morally uncomfortable at times. The game doesn't shy away from crime, violence, drug use, or sexual themes, but it also doesn't glamorize them. The world feels worn down, transactional, and tense. You're not playing a hero trying to save the city. You're trying to survive in it, pay off your debt, and make choices that might keep you alive tomorrow, even if they come with consequences. The main story is expected to run around 10 hours, but the real length comes from everything wrapped around it. The city offers a wide range of vehicle-based jobs and side activities, high-risk hits, underground street races, getaways, tailing missions, theft, and information gathering. Taking on these jobs isn't just about money. They feed directly into your understanding of the city, your skills as a player, and the choices you can make later in the story. Driving is at the core of Samson, and it's not treated as disposable. Vehicles have weight, impact matters, different cars behave differently, and support different playstyles. You can drive anything you see, but stealing a vehicle isn't consequence-free. Police presence matters, civilians notice what you're doing, and law enforcement escalates dynamically depending on how far you push things. Chases are built around tension and pressure rather than spectacle. Mistakes compound quickly, and knowing the city becomes just as important as raw driving skill. Combat is where Samson really separates itself from a lot of open-world action games. There are no guns, violence is personal, physical, and often improvised. Hand-to-hand combat, melee weapons pulled straight from the environment, and vehicle-based brawling all exist side by side. A wrench, a stack of tires, a brick pile, or even a car itself can become a weapon if you use the space properly. There's no flashy style system here. Everything is built around function, positioning, timing, and survival. Damage is visualized, hits have weight, environments break, characters react. If you throw someone into a railing, it feels intentional. If you misjudge a fight, you pay for it. You're encouraged to read the space, lure enemies into bad positions, and use whatever the environment gives you. You can store weapons in your car trunk if you plan ahead, but nothing feels like a traditional loadout. Adaptation matters more than preparation. The city itself is reactive in small but meaningful ways. NPCs comment if you bump into them. Civilians move out of the way if you drive recklessly. People gather if someone gets injured. Attack someone and you'll either get a fight or a crowd scattering, and that reaction might draw attention you weren't prepared for. The city doesn't reset around you, it responds. Progression exists, but it's skill-based rather than number-driven. Perks and abilities support different playstyles and reward players for engaging with all sides of the game. Driving, combat, exploration, and decision-making. There are no global difficulty sliders. The developers want the challenge to come from how much pressure you choose to take on, not from artificial scaling. Visually, the game is ambitious, but performance has been a focus from the start. The team has been building Samsung for roughly 5 years, with systems, assets, and ideas evolving over that entire period. They've leaned on experience from previous open-world projects and close collaboration with Epic to make sure the game runs well without compromising its physical feel. For Mad Max fans, the appeal is obvious: vehicle combat, heavy impacts, and fights that feel brutal and personal. Where Samsung differs is tone and setting. This is a grounded modern city rather than a post-apocalyptic wasteland. It's more intimate, more character-driven, and less about spectacle for its own sake. Progression is steady, and the game is designed to feel good from the opening hours, not only once everything unlocks. For fans of Just Cause, the connection isn't about explosions or scale. It's about momentum, physical systems, and worlds that react to player behavior instead of funneling you through scripted moments. Samsung feels like that philosophy refined into something tighter and more controlled. All of the footage shown so far has been captured in engine, and the team has already confirmed that future dev diaries and gameplay deep dives are coming. What's clear already is that Samsung isn't trying to compete with massive
Tindleston.
any open worlds on size. It's competing on feel, intent, and cohesion, on making driving tense, combat meaningful, and the city feel like a place that remembers what you do. At a time when many big releases chase scale, monetization, or multiplayer longevity, Samsung is deliberately doing the opposite. A focused single-player experience, no microtransactions, a clear story, and systems built to interact rather than overwhelm. If the team delivers on what they've outlined so far, this could end up being one of those mid-price games that quietly earns a dedicated audience by doing its own thing and doing it well. One of the reasons Samsung is quietly generating this level of interest is who's actually in control of it. This isn't a project being steered by publishers, market analysts, or trend chasing. The studio is independent, self-published, and small by design, which gives the team full creative control over what the game is, and just as importantly, what it isn't. That shows up everywhere, from the decision to stay single-player only, to the absence of microtransactions, to the way systems are designed around tension and consequence rather than spectacle. Christopher Sundberg and the team have been very open about building the game they want to play, not the one that checks the most boxes, isn't trying to inflate itself with endless activities or artificial longevity. It's why the world is dense instead of massive, why the combat is grounded instead of flashy, and why the narrative is structured and intentional rather than endlessly modular. The goal isn't to keep players busy forever, it's to make the hours you spend feel considered and meaningful. Choosing not to include firearms in a modern crime-focused game is a big one. Leaning fully into melee, environmental interaction, and vehicle-based combat demands confidence in your systems. It forces the game to stand on its mechanics, animation, physics, and level design rather than relying on familiar shooter conventions. It also creates a much stronger sense of identity, something that's increasingly rare in the open world space.